Hello, everyone. Len Holmquist in company with Ward Novak, Secretary of the Wilmington Bowling Association at Price Lanes, and we're ready to begin the championship round of competition in the 1997 Delaware Men's Top 20 Tournament. And this is Rob Pierson, our number 4 seed going into the finals, and he smokes all 10 to get this championship round of play underway. We'll tell you a little bit about Rob in just a moment, but this right now is Dennis Reale. Dennis comes to us from Center Lanes in Philadelphia, does his league bowling, of course, in Delaware. Has a high series of 824, high single game of 300. It is probably safe to say that everybody, Ward, in this championship competition has at least one perfect game to his credit. Dennis goes a little bit light, on the opening shot and leaves himself a couple of pins to pick up.
Yeah, you'll notice that Dennis also has a couple PBA regional titles. So all these players have great credentials coming in, all 5 of the men bowling tonight.
And you know, one of the questions that people will ask you when they see these young men with this kind of talent, why aren't they on the pro circuit? And your response?
I'm going to go out on a limb and probably aggravate a lot of people. But it's one thing to average 220 or 225 in your home bowling center. But when you go out on tour, you've got to be able to average 225 in almost any condition. And that's probably one of the toughest things in the world to do. When you hear them say that these are the world's greatest bowlers on Saturday, they mean it.
They absolutely do, even though sometimes, there's Dennis, he adjusts and crushes them in the second frame on lane 3. You're right. I mean, I've been fortunate to be involved with professional bowling in one fashion or another, mostly with the ladies for quite a while now, and they earn every dime they make because those conditions are certainly not what you would find at your favorite hometown center. There's a double for Rob Pierson. Rob is 29 years of age. He's married to his wife Colleen, a couple of youngsters, Brandon and Kelly. Hasn't really been bowling that long.
No, 12 years isn't very long to have the kind of credentials that Rob has. He's got a couple second place finishes in the top 20 tournament and an 832 high series to his credit.
One of the things that Rob does have problems with, though, Ward, very candidly, is he'll let the mental game get to him once in a while. As he strikes to triple up here to begin this opening match in our stepladder finals.
That's another one of those things. You asked me what makes the difference between a super regional or local bowler and a PBA player, and you really have to stay on top of your mental game.
Yeah, you cannot let one bad shot set you off, and that will happen sometimes. And Rob is, and he'll admit it. He'll admit that his mental game is probably not his strongest suit. His physical game, nothing wrong with his physical game at all.
No, absolutely not.
Dennis Reale trying to double up and stay pace, and will do so.
Dennis was scheduled to bowl in our Delaware State bowling tournament this year, and because of other commitments, wasn't able to bowl. But I heard him paid a very high compliment by some of his teammates. They made the comment that they really wished he was here because he's the one bowler that they know that just never has a bad set.
Now, he has good composure, will maintain his composure for the most part at all times. I've had a chance to see Dennis bowl on a number of occasions. And just by the fact that he's won a couple of PBA regional titles tells you that he has a tendency to keep things focused.
Got a lot of composure for a 26-year-old fellow.
Will try to make it a 3-bagger. Goes left, and they all fall, and he'll take it. That's not exactly where he wanted it to be, but does a little bow to the pins. Kind of thank you very, very much.
You mentioned he's from Philadelphia, and he's pretty well known. Philadelphia Bowling Association has 17,000 members, and they know Dennis.
Has the pro shop at Center Lanes in Philadelphia. Quite skilled at equipping people, and the string ends at 3 for Rob, who can't get the 10-pin to fall out for him.
That makes it a 1-pin lead for Dennis now.
Loser of this match will walk out of here with $100. But again, as we've alluded to, if you caught our telecast of the women's championship in this year's top 20 tournament. The prestige that goes with this title means more than the money. The money's nice to have right now, but down the line is when they'll remember you as a top 20 tournament champion. And he gets the 10 pin to go out.
This has become a prestigious tournament. I mean, Len, you started it 20 years ago, and everybody looked forward to bowling in that tournament. And this is the thing that people bowl all year for.
We had a one-year hiatus, and then it has been brought back, and this is, of course, a historic event. This is the first time that the finals have been televised, and we're happy to have that come into our bowling play. Oh, 10-pin wrapped around. Rob with a strong showing in match play competition after the qualifying. Qualifying was on Friday night at Bowl-O-Rama in Newcastle, May 30th, May 31st. Qualifying continued with 8 more games at Holiday Lanes, after which the men's field was cut to the top 10 for match play today. And these young men have had about a 2-hour wait to participate in this stepladder finals, and so far that delay has not been in evidence by their game.
No, and Rob made a big move today. He came in the 10th place position and has moved his way up to start in the number 4 slot.
Had a little problem in the second round of qualifying, and we'll be back as we continue this opening match of the men's top 20 finals in just a moment.
Dennis Reale, the victor in this match, in his 9th frame. Comes back with a double. He's got himself a good 200 game. Came out of the gate big and stayed right in it. Didn't give Brian any chance. Supposedly taping scratch tournament right after this. 2 matches of some of the best men bowlers in Delaware. They want to see what to do. They ought to stand back here right now and watch what's going on. No question, that's the line to play. Potential 256 for Dennis if he gets a strike on this frame. Well, put that one out a little bit. Didn't come back. 253. 240.
Back at Price Lanes at Price's Corner for the championship round competition, top 20 tournament. Dennis Reale of Philadelphia working on a 3-bagger up on lane 4. Dennis got a little errant with his opening shot. Did make a 2-pin spare, but he has been pretty successful since then. 9-pin will not fall out for him on this shot.
Yeah, you'll notice almost all the fellas today have the contemporary style. You'll notice they open their shoulders a little bit in the backswing, get the real high backswing, and then come up through the ball. So they have real good forward revolution rotation, which gets it down the lane for them and gets that big backhand hook for them.
Not a down and inner like Ward Novak.
No, I'm a traditional stroker.
Here's Dennis with his cover on the 9-pin. And he'll count now 99 through the 4th with a spare up in the 5th. And a 1-pin advantage over his opponent, Rob Pierson.
Actually, having the few years that Rob and Dennis have as bowlers relative to myself and you, one of the things that you notice is that they're more adaptable as the game changes, because the game changes rapidly today.
Dennis started bowling in 1978. He's 26 years of age, so he did get a little bit of an early start. Goes a little bit left this time. Problem that he encountered earlier. Still trying to figure that one out. talking to himself, explaining to himself exactly what he's doing wrong. One of the things you will notice about the accomplished players, and some of them do it, some of them don't, but you'll notice with Dennis, he'll make sure that oil is wiped off the ball just about every time. They don't want to take any chances with a little excess on there that's not necessary.
Yeah, in this case, you'll notice that Dennis changed to a harder surface ball. And in this case, he wants to make sure that the oil's off, so if it is going to get a reaction, he'll get a consistent reaction. These new reactive urethane balls, the high-performance bowling equipment that everyone's using today, has a tendency to absorb a lot of oil. So if you see a drip of oil by the time it gets back from the pin setter, the oil will have evaporated.
First really bad shot of the match by Rob Pierson. Just didn't seem to have command of the ball on the downswing. I think Rob is feeling just a little bit of the heat of bowling under the lights and the glare of television. That will catch up to you sometimes. Opening match here, Rob Pierson, 29-year-old from Wilmington, against Dennis Reale, 26-year-old from Philadelphia. Good cover on the 3-pin spare by Rob. '97 women's top 20 tournament titleist is Susan Turchin. She defeated the defending champion Kim Bowers in the title match. Other finalists for the women: Tina Kraus, number 5. Debbie Quisenberry, number 4. Trish Renshaw, number 3. Much better shot, much better reaction, but the kiss of the 6-pin on the 10-pin, just not enough, and the 10-pin stands.
Weak 10-pin, and the 6-pin laid down the gutter on him.
In the background, you can see some of the fans that are here, and we've still got a very good crowd on hand for this men's top 5 stepladder finals. Good turnout to watch the competition as Rob again spares. He'll count 134 through the 6th with a spare up in the 7th. Dennis Reale through 5, 117 with a spare working in the 6th frame. So a very airtight match here. And the winner will move on to meet Steve Myers, one of the better instructors in this area, who instructed himself into this top 5 of the top 20 tournament.
Well, that makes it a 1-pin match.
I was just going to say, Dennis really got that one. Looked like he chickened-armed it a little bit. Arms seemed to fly out a little bit away from his body, and the result was the ball was not going to come back. And he knows the mistake that he made.
I think he also knows that he's bowling against Rob, and you just don't want to make any mistakes. When you're bowling against the 5 guys that are in this top 5, you just don't want to make any mistakes.
He'll go very direct at the 2-pin spare, and he's got it made. 1-pin matches, you just pointed out, 135, 134, both with spares in the 7th frame. And now Dennis will move over to lane 3 to shoot the 8th frame and try to come back after that spare and put a little more pressure on Rob as we move late into this opening match.
We've tried to get a bio on these folks and find out a little bit about them. And when they asked Dennis who his most influential person was in the game, he said, well, really, there's too many to single out one. And I think when you get to the top of your game, that's pretty much the case with almost any of us.
Yeah, that's true, because you're listening to a lot of rather succinct advice sometimes from a lot of different people, and try to amalgamate it into your particular game. And at this level of competition, even though for the most part these are amateurs, Dennis, of course, is a regional member of the PBA, has 2 titles. He'll knock out the 10-pin on his spare as our match stays very tight. Rob Pierson, 300 saves. I think Rob having a little fun with this in his bio report. We asked him who his most influential person was who brought him into bowling, as he really smacks all 10 down. Just dynamic, solid pocket hit. He wrote as the question was, who is your biggest influence in bowling and why? The infamous, or is it infamous, Fred Grau.
One of those.
One of those. Fred is well, he's one of the more friendly guys in the game of bowling locally, and people just seem to like him. A double for Rob Pierson, and he is now put the heat on Dennis Reale. Dennis is going to have to respond, and it may be too late. We'll check the score out. 154, 154 both in the seventh. Double up for Rob Pierson. Dennis working on a spare. He has got to go off the sheet to put the heat on Rob Pierson.
It pretty much looks like a 10-pin game now. So Dennis is going to have to really knuckle under here. And again, he found that out-of-bounds area that we had earlier.
And that is going to be it for Dennis Reale in this championship finals. You know, we pointed out the money. He's going to take home $100. That's not a lot more than the entry fee for this tournament. But he is losing out on the prestige of maybe going on and having a chance to win the title, which is a very prestigious title. But Rob Pierson is going to be the winner of this first game as Dennis goes by, picks 2 of the 3 pins, and will finish out this first game and go home and try to regroup. Probably not entirely too happy with his showing here in the championship match. Championship round of competition, not the championship match, which is still a couple of games away. Our number 1 seed, by the way, into this top 5 is Tom Smith from Wilmington. John Longacre is the number 2 seed. John from just over the line, I believe, up in Westchester, Pennsylvania, or near that area.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, if I were Rob or Steve Myers coming up, Tom and John are 2 tough players, and they bowled in the state tournament here this year. Tom was the all-events winner by a truckload of pins, so he's going to be tough to beat, I think.
We'll talk a little bit about demeanor and composure when we get into the title match for sure with Tom Smith. He is legendary, almost legendary in the way he can react sometimes when things aren't quite going his way. But when he is on top of his game, Ward, there's not a lot of people around here who can beat him.
No, and I'll tell you, I watched him in the state tournament, and he was awesome.
Dennis is going to count with a 200 game. If he makes this spare, he'll have 200 flat. But he'll have to settle for 5th place. And Rob Pierson will go on for match number 2. We're going to follow Rob's 10th frame effort here because he is working on a double with a 154 count through 7. And let's just see how big the margin can grow to. Well, it's not going to grow a whole lot more, but he's going to be the winner. And we'll be back with our second match. Rob Pierson has won this opening match against Dennis Reale. Coming up next, it'll be Steve Myers, the number 3 seed, against Rob Pierson, the winner here. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Price Lanes at Price's Corner in Wilmington. Len Holmquist in company with Ward Novak. We are in match number 2 of our stepladder finals in the 97 Delaware Top 20 Men's Tournament. And Steve Myers gets us going with a solid strike to open up match number 2. His opponent, Rob Pierson. Rob has already won once, defeating Dennis Reale in the opening match. And this one shapes up for to be a something that should probably go down to the late frames.
I would think so. You've got Rob's warmed up. He knows what the lanes are giving him. Steve is a well-credentialed instructor here in Wilmington, and he's going to be able to figure out what's going on here pretty quick, I would think, too.
5-pin falls out late, so both gentlemen have opened with strikes. Money-wise, well, not a lot, but as we've pointed out again and again, when you get to this level of competition in the state of Delaware, it is the prestige that goes with this title. little kiss on the 10-pin, but it will not fall for Rob Pierson. Rob had it going early and often in his match with Dennis Reale, and that carried him to victory. He's only been bowling for 12 years. That doesn't seem like a long time. Obviously, good athletic ability to go into the bowling.
Well, he started at 17, and that's kind of unusual. When somebody starts at that age, that's normally when you see the big drop-off in junior bowlers. They have a tendency to say, well, geez, I have to go to work now, so I can't bowl anymore. I'll start it after I get married.
Or I've got a car, or I've got a job, or I got a girlfriend, and she doesn't care for bowling.
There's no question that with the credentials that Rob brings here, he's had to do an awful lot of practice to get here.
Steve Myers, 38 years of age, and he does have some outstanding credentials. And he is into the pocket, and again, he'll be in the same boat that Rob was in. Couldn't get that 10-pin to cooperate. He'll have to go after the spare, change balls. Shinier ball, harder surface, goes straight at the pin. I'll tell you, if you watch, and he does manage to knock that 10-pin down. It was a little hairy at the end, but if you watch Steve, in a lot of ways, Ward, you see classic bowling.
Yeah, Steve's 38 years old, and he's been around for a while. Started when he was 1973. That gives him 26, 24 years of bowling. Started when he was 14.
He's got all 10 this time. So Myers off with a strike, a spare on the 10-pin, and comes back with a strike. Pierson struck in the opening frame, spared, and now he'll try to duplicate what Myers just did a moment ago. 832 is Rob Pierson's high series. He has a perfect game. Everybody in the finals with more than one perfect game for the most part. Little high, and what a break Rob Pierson gets. The 4-pin just wiggled and finally fell, and he shows his emotions, does Rob Pierson.
And that could be a little bit of a sight game too on his part. It's always nice when you trip something like that and the player that you're bowling against is paying attention.
Well, if I know Steve Myers well enough, I don't think that's going to unnerve him.
I don't think so either.
No, don't think it will. Later in the match may have been a difference, but not right now. Ringing, solid 10-pin. Rob goes back shaking his head. Likes to bowl to make extra money. You know, when you're married, you've got a couple of small children, that extra cash does come in handy, and he's good enough at this game of bowling to pick up a few bucks every once in a while.
And that's actually why he says he bowls.
To make a few extra bucks.
Make a few extra bucks.
Well, he is going to make a few extra bucks in this competition, but maybe even more so go on and win the prestige of the top 20 title. Steve Myers, on his bio sketch, he tells us under the heading marital status, happily. And his wife Janine is sitting off to my left, rooting him on. They're the proud parents of 2. Jeremy is 4. Aaron is 2 years of age. In the pocket, but the 4-pin won't go. So where Rob Pierson got cooperation from the 4-pin falling late, Steve does not get that.
No, and it's interesting that Rob's not carrying 3 and Steve's not carrying on lane 4.
Myers with the spare, and he'll count 60 through the 3rd with a spare in the 4th. Rob Pierson with 60 through the 3rd, spare in the 4th. So we've got a dead even match going right now. 10 pins have been a little bit of a problem for Pierson. Steve stays nice and low, and oh my, what happened?
Well, what I was just getting ready to say before Steve threw that ball is I've noticed on lane 4, even during the women's matches, seemed to be a little bit tighter. Lane 3 seems to be giving a little bit more back-end reaction. And this time you might have noticed Steve was got a little bit more reaction than he wanted on lane 3, and the ball hooked up through the head pin. It's the same lane that Rob is leaving at 10 pins, and that may be a result of the back end reaction. He may be getting a little more than he's getting on lane 4.
Myers going for the difficult spare, only counts 2, will go flat with an 84 count now through 5. Rob on a spare in the 4th frame. In the pocket, and again he leaves the 10 pin, so he's having trouble getting those corner pins out, and that is to his disadvantage right now, because that does leave the game open for his opponent.
Yeah, that gives a chance for Steve, being the kind of player that he is. I don't think he's going to let that last frame bother him. He'll put the ball right back in the pocket.
Second match of our 97 Delaware Top 20 Men's Championship Finals. Rob Pierson won his opening match against Dennis Reale. Knocks down the 10 pin. And we'll be back to continue this match from Price Lanes in just a moment.
Youth Top 10 tournament. He won the Youth Adult Scotch Doubles. It was on TV. Won the Junior Singles Classic 2 years in a row. We have Bill Ripley. Bill's got a double. 18 in the second with a double. Series 703. Our game is 268. Both of those were rolled at Silverside in the tournament. Came in 8th place in Eastern Junior All-Stars. Won the Top 10 tournament.
Back at Price Lanes, Price's Corner, Len Holmquist in company with Ward Novak. Championship round finals of the 97 Delaware Men's Top 20 tournament. Rob Pierson on lane 3, working on a spare in the 5th frame, and he runs a little bit wide, a little bit of out of bounds to the right on lane 3 for Rob.
Yeah, he's been keeping his speed up pretty well, and that time I think he just shot a little bit wide of where he was hoping to hit.
Steve Myers will come up in a moment. He's working on an open frame after leaving a very difficult split, which he could not make. But he is in this match. And Pierson makes the cover, the 1-2-8. And he'll count 96 pins down through 5 and a spare in the 6th frame. Myers is at 84 through 5. So he basically, with a strike here, could climb right back into the match. Into the pocket, and they all split on the Moses ball. Parts the pins, and is back in this match with that strike. Winner of this match goes on to take on John Longacre, one of the smoother bowlers that you'll ever see in competition.
Let's see if Steve makes an adjustment on this lane. The last one, you remember I mentioned that lane 4 was a little bit tighter. Let's see if Steve makes this one.
Steve does some regional work, and smartly, something bothered him. And being the experienced bowler that he is, he just stopped.
Steve is a certified coach, too, with the Dick Ritker camps, and he's also a certified silver coach with Team USA.
Makes the adjustment, hits them all down. He's got a double working, and he has taken a slim lead over Rob Pierson here in game number 2. I used to have the opportunity to watch Steve do some instructional work at Holiday Lanes in Claymont, and I'll tell you what, if you went through the rigors of his instruction, you learned an awful lot about the game of bowling, all aspects of it. And Rob, again, has that out-of-bounds problem to the right, this time on lane 4.
Yeah, he missed his mark by several boards that time, and that's not characteristic of Rob's normal game.
He's got to get his act together right here, because after that flat in the 5th frame, Steve Myers has come on with a double to take a slim lead in this match. 2-pin spare is covered, and he'll move over to lane number 3. Rob has had the distinction of being second in not only the last top 20 tournament, but the last 2 top 20 tournaments. The defending champion of the top 20, last played in 1995, Tom Robinson, was not able to compete in this year's competition. All 10 in the pit for Rob, so he keeps it a close match, and Steve Myers will now come up on lane 4 in the 8th frame. He's working on a double.
Yeah, if Steve catches a strike here on this right lane, he's going to put a 10-pin lead on Rob.
Taking just a little bit of an extra time. Steve's high series 825. Has placed many times, not only in regional but national tournament competition with the PBA. I don't believe he holds his PBA card anymore. Steve talking to himself, and knew that it was a bad shot as soon as it left his hand.
Yeah, that one, again, the right lane's a little bit touchy.
You have no room for error on the right lane, and he made a little bit of an error with his game, and we'll go flat here in the 8th frame. Counts 139 in the 8th. Pierson is 134 in the 7th with a strike up in the 8th. So Pierson with the lead, but this one not over yet.
Well, that went from a 10-pin, potential 10-pin lead for Steve to a 14-pin deficit.
He gets back into the action with a strike, but he'd love to have that 8th frame over again. Not happy with his performance on lane 4 just a moment ago. Rob Pierson can go off the sheet for 224. And that time he's solid in the pocket. He'd been a little wide right both the last 2 frames, but that one he adjusted and was solid for a 10-pin count. Strike here to start the 10th frame for Rob would put Steve Myers in serious jeopardy in this competition. Pierson doesn't take any extra time either. Tight line shot. They all go. Yeah. And that
one pretty much dusted it away.
Going to seal the fate of Steve Myers. An errant shot in the 8th frame on lane 4 by Steve, and he paid the price for it, leaving the 6, 7, 10. And he's going to go home with 4th place money. Rob Pierson will go on. John Longacre is waiting in the wings in the semifinal match.
Yeah, Rob's lined up now, and I think he may show some pretty good numbers for the next couple games.
Well, twice he let the ball get away from him. A little bit of an out-of-bounds area, both lanes, but he has adjusted since then, and is going to go on and play in the semifinal match against John Longacre, the number 2 seed. Rob made, of course, a big jump in match play competition. Started match play in the number 10 spot, worked his way into the stepladder's top 5. Finishes with a 223. And now Steve finds the strike line just a little bit too late on lane number 4. Our semifinal match will be Rob Pierson against John Longacre, and we'll be back at Price Lanes with that match in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone, to Price Lanes at Price's Corner in Wilmington, and that young man there is Rob Pierson. This is Len Holmquist in company with Ward Novak, and we are set to begin our semifinal match in the 97 Delaware Top 20 Men's Championship competition. Rob Pierson has won twice in the stepladder finals, going for number 3, and starts it off by leading the 10-pin. He's been there before, Ward.
Yeah, he's been making real good shots on both lanes, but he's been getting a lot of 10-pin taps. It would indicate that the ball's probably hooking a little bit behind the head pin and blowing the 6-pin around the 10.
He'll try to cover the 10-pin and then sit down and watch his semifinal opponent, number 2 seed John Longacre, take over for a couple of frames. Pierson winning the last match over Steve Myers, 223 to 186.
Might notice on the 10-pin spare, Len, Rob picks up his speed quite a bit, flattens his hand out, throws right at the 10-pin.
That's how you're supposed to do.
Well, you don't miss very many that way.
I always had the theory of looking at the shadow of the pin on the deck and then aiming for the shadow, and it worked. John Longacre, this is our first look at John. Rather smooth, conventional style, and into the pocket, and he too has 10-pin trouble. Wraps around the 10-pin with the 6.
You'll notice that John has the typical classic contemporary style that you see today. He opens his shoulders a little bit through the backswing and then accelerates his release as he comes through. His arm continues to accelerate. He doesn't quit on the ball, and he gets real good forward rotation on the ball.
John, 33 years of age, and some outstanding credentials, as you would expect, making the championship round competition. So both semifinalists open this next to last game with a 10-pin spare cover. John is a daddy of one. His wife Samantha is here watching on with their almost new baby, 6 weeks old, Andrea. John's been bowling about 20 years. Got started when he turned teen at 13. Bowled in a youth program up at Plaza Bowl in Westchester, Pennsylvania. I don't believe Plaza Bowl is around any longer. He goes a little high and will have to cover the 6-pin. Smiles to himself as he comes back off the approach, trying to figure out what's going on.
It's pretty interesting if you look at the finalists today. Len, we've got some people from Westchester. We've had them from Elkton. Just goes to show that this tri-state area is pretty hot.
He has some outstanding talent. Covers the 6-pin, so he will mark in both the first and second frame with spares. Rob Pierson working on a spare as we move to frame number 2. The top seed waits in the wings, and that top seed is Tom Smith. By the way, John Longacre, number 2 seed, going into match play earlier today here at Price Lanes, and he stayed in that number 2 seed, where Rob Pierson had to come all the way from 10th going into match play to just make it to the championship round of competition.
That one, Rob got a little bit of overreaction, and he finished real high in the pocket, leaving the 4-pin. I think he might have slowed his speed down just a little bit.
He is in the 3rd game now of competition, and he's bowling under some television lights and bowling under some pressure, so the body is going to do some different things as the games mount up, and he'll cover his spare. So both gentlemen with 9-count spares in the first 2 frames. One thing about all of these bowlers, they like the competition, they like to win, but they do know each other, so they can play to each other's strengths and weaknesses as well.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that as the matches go on, we might see a little more psychological play involved as well.
I don't know how much psychological play you'll see out of John Longacre. He just generally goes about his business, as does Rob Pierson, smashing 10 into the pit on lane number 3. First strike of our semifinal match. John Longacre. 16 times John has produced perfect games. His high series is 815. He's a former U.S. Open qualifier. He will get a strike, so we're all even through 3.
I think another thing, too, we talked about the prestige of the tournament, Len, but we haven't really talked about some of the really good things that the tournament's doing. And One of the things is making a donation to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Delaware and to the Youth Scholarship Bowling Fund.
Yeah, they'll be enriched by close to $300, and we thank the bowlers and sponsorship for making that amount of money donated possible. Here's John Longacre. Let's see if he can double up on 3. A little high. 7-pin stands. He's a little bit fortunate that it's only the 7.
He's real fortunate. That ball finished right on the head pin, and it could have easily been a split.
I think he knew he had problems as soon as it left his hand. He's been waiting in the wings, remember, to get into this match as the number 2 seed. You know, the statistics in professional bowling, the number 1 seed about 70% of the time is the winner. And a lot of people will say, well, it's kind of unfair to the top seed that they have to win the tournament twice. But people also have to understand that, no, that is the tournament. The tournament is qualifying, the tournament is match play, and the tournament is step-ladder finals. This is the first year in a long time in the top 20 tournament there has been a step-ladder finals, and it's the first time ever that the finals are televised. So we have a little history going here. Rob Pierson on 4. He'll try to double. He's got a double.
Yeah, that gives Rob a 10-pin lead now. I'm sure that does a lot for the confidence, too, when you're getting down to this point.
I'll tell you what, the young man in the back with the red shirt, Gary Zawicki, he's getting more airplay than anybody.
That's true, he is. He's a fixture here at Price Lanes, and we see him every night while we had the state tournament here.
Rob Pierson will try to string a 3-bagger. Comes from back of the leg. And this time he gets that 10-pin to fall out. Solid hit by Pierson. And we'll be back to continue this semifinal match in the 97 Delaware Top 20 Men's Tournament from Price Lanes in just a moment.
Second frame. He's really done a lot of traveling this year. He qualified to go to Baltimore to bowl with the pros. He qualified to go to Reading to bowl with the pros. He qualified to go to Niagara Falls to bowl with the pros. He also won for the second year in a row the National Family Doubles qualifying in the state of Delaware. And with that, went to Washington, D.C. to roll in the national tournament Labor Day weekend. Didn't do too well, but he did pick up a $500 scholarship for winning the state finals. So far, Keith has accumulated over $2,000 in Bowlers Gazette scholarships. And Bowlers Gazette is in its 3rd season. Keith has been rolling in 2 seasons now. Threw that ball like he knew what he was doing.
Back as promised at Price Lanes, Len Holmquist in company with Ward Novak. John Longacre now with some work in front of him. As his opponent, Rob Pierson, has strung 3 together. Longacre working on a spare in the 4th with a 59 count through the first 3. And he's dead in the pocket. Very direct line of play for Longacre.
That was a real good shot John just made. Hoping it does a little bit for his confidence now, because I think he feels that he's been fishing for a good shot here a couple times, and we'll see if he makes a good adjustment on the left lane.
On his bowling resume, he's a member of a Philadelphia team that won a title. He's won marathon competitions held at Country Club Lanes with very, very stiff competition down in Baltimore, near Baltimore. He's a Delaware State champion. He's been involved in the team challenge, where his team came in 2nd and 5th in outposts like Connecticut and Detroit. Says he likes to bowl because, well, he can't play golf in the winter, so he's got to find something else to do. And he's really into computers.
Yes, he is. He runs some of the brackets for some of the major leagues, and I think he's getting a little bit of pressure now, along with Will Lewis Jr., to start maybe a Masters 35 and older type tournament or league.
He's got a little bit of spare work here with the 1-2-8 on lane 3.
That last release, not the spare shot, but the strike ball. The ball seemed to stick a little bit on his hand. He didn't get a clean release.
Got two different types of personalities bowling in this match, though. Rob is more of the firebrand, where John just kind of like coasts along. But believe me, both of them inside, they want to win real bad. 4-pin will not cooperate.
Yeah, that was the other comment here on John's list, that he bowls for the money.
Show me the money. Rob Pierson has already pocketed some money. The loser of this match will take home a couple $100. The winner will go on for some decent money, with $800 going to the champion this year, and of course the prestige that goes with the title. Second place is worth half of that $800. So we've got some big money coming up in just a moment. Rob Pierson covers the spare, and he will now count 118 through the 5th with a spare up.
Gives him that 17-pin lead. Of course, we saw in the last match with Steve Myers, boy, that can turn around in a real big hurry.
Yes, it can. Steve had a chance in the 8th frame to take a 10-pin lead and left a horrible split. 4, 7, 9, 10. Could only make 2 of them. And it basically cost him the match. As Rob Pierson got red hot, and he stays hot here on lane 3.
But not this time. I think Rob's kind of locked in now.
Yeah, he is kind of locked in, and John's going to have to try to sprint to the wire here, so to speak, with a lot of strikes to continue the pressure on Rob Pierson.
Deadwood 32,
Tom Smith.
Deadwood 32.
Tom Smith is our #1 seed, and if we get Rob Pierson against Tom Smith in the finals, that could be classic. They are both rather prone to let you know when they're not doing well, or when the pins do not cooperate.
It'll be exciting. It'll be good scoring, and I think it'll be exciting.
John Longacre talks to Rob Pierson, says, I got them all down that time, Rob. I got them all down. I'm not out of this match yet.
It's a 19-pin differential between Rob and John at this point, with Rob having that lead.
As I said, John's wife, Samantha, and infant daughter, Andrea, they're both in attendance here. Little high, and he's fortunate that only 1 pin could have the baby split.
Yeah, he yanked up on that shot and pulled it a little bit to the left of his target.
He knows what he did, and Rob Pierson knows what he did, so they're having a conversation about it right now. Congratulations to our women's top 20 tournament champion for 1997, Sue Turchin, defeating the defending champion Kim Bowers in the title match. Sue Turchin is the 97 top 20 women's tournament champion. Here comes Rob Pierson. He's got this one pretty well in hand. 138 through the 6th with a strike up in the 7th. But he doesn't want to stumble here, Ward, because there is still a little bit of a window of opportunity for John Longacre.
But if he strikes on this shot, he puts himself in real good position.
He is closing in on a championship match with Tom Smith. Rob very pleased with himself, I'm sure, although it doesn't show right now. He led in the opening round of qualifying Friday night at Bolorama, and then really just ran into all sorts of trouble the second night of qualifying at Holiday Lanes. Let his mental game get away from him, as well as his physical game, but pulled it back together here in match play today, and he has put this one away with that strike right here. As we said, he started in 10th in the match play competition, came on strong at the end, 222, 202, and 226 in his last 3 games to make it into the top 5. John Longacre now will just go through the motions and get out of the way, and let Rob Pierson and Tom Smith duel it out in the title match.
Quentin Welsh,
John does.
line 6.
I won't try to do battle with the PA here at Price Lanes. Good crowd on hand, and you can hear the hubbub in the background. There's his wife in the background. There's Samantha right behind him rocking Andrea, the new baby.
That last shot John threw, too, you can tell now that the situation is kind of out of hand. He relaxed and just made a really super relaxed shot.
Dead ball 36.
It's a little bit of an unfortunate break there, leaving the 9-pin, and maybe had the PA announcement not going off in the middle of a downswing. It's not a good time to have someone blaring at you. But you know, when you're in bowling and you're in league bowling, as much as these players are, Ward, those distractions don't really bother you very much.
You really don't notice that unless it's a really tight match. And in this case, I think John wasn't going to be bothered by that.
The best John can do is 199 if you could count all 10 on this final ball in the 10th frame. 199 will not make it. Rob Pierson, if he goes off the sheet, will have a very, very respectable 258 if he strikes out. And that would be his high game in this championship competition. Tom Smith is next for Rob Pierson.
Yeah, Tom started out with some big games today, and that put him in pretty good position where he could coast the last two or three games of match play.
196 will be the final count for John Longacre, and we're going to stay with Rob Pierson and see if he can produce some very, very nice numbers with a strikeout finish here in this semifinal match. He's working on a three-bagger already. You know, he has finished second in this tournament the last two times it was held, 95 and 94. Can he finally break the bridesmaid jinx?
Oh, I think he wants to get that monkey off his back. It's pretty frustrating when you get so close and you just can't put that one away. And I think this is his opportunity to either get the monkey off his back or become the Walter Ray of our tournament.
Well, as we've said before, the money is nice right now, but 10 years down the road, when your name is still on that top 20 title trophy, it will mean a lot more to you. I know in talking with Jim Johnson Jr., of course, the area's most heralded bowler, he said that, you know, he participated in this year's tournament, didn't fare that well, but the game has been up and down, and of course recently became a PBA champion. He still relishes the fact that he won this title a number of times and is very, very, very proud of that. It will be a 257 performance by Rob Pierson in the semifinal match. His win, 257 to 196. Title match with Tom Smith and Rob Pierson coming up in just a moment. Welcome back, everyone, to Price Lanes. Len Holmquist in company with Ward Novak, the secretary of the Wilmington Bowling Association. And we are set for our championship match in the 97 Delaware Top 20 Men's Tournament title chase. And this is Tom Smith, the number 1 seed, number 1 ball, and he gets them all to go down. And he got them to go down a lot during the tournament, Ward.
Yeah, and quickly I noticed something real interesting about this particular match, and that's that Tom starts first. He didn't make the lower seed start first, which means that he wanted to get out to a quick lead and put the pressure on.
He also wants to make sure that Rob Pierson will finish and be on the bench as Rob Pierson counters with a strike, so Tom can make up any lost ground if it's a close match at the end. Smith, by the way, the number 1 seed going into match play earlier in the day here at Price Lanes, and then he just put some distance between himself and the rest of the field, opening with games of 238, 256, 234, 255. Stumbled to a 183, but made up for that when he came back with a 279, and he just more or less played with the field the rest of the way to be the number 1 seed. Here's Rob Pierson coming in as a lower seed, but he's already won 3 matches, and he goes a little bit out of bounds as he has done a couple of times before.
Yeah, he wanted that one pretty bad. He amped up a little bit, threw a little bit harder than normal. Wanted to get that second strike to put the pressure back on Tom.
The adrenaline is flowing, and we've told you before, a little drama with Pierson's showing in this championship round of play. He has finished twice second the last 2 top 20 titles in 95 and 94, and what a spare.
And he got a big break on that when he got a lot of wall action off the 2-pin.
Didn't seem to unnerve Tom Smith, at least outwardly. Inwardly, that could be a different subject. Tom is of the explosive sort.
And we'll know that about the fifth frame.
About the fifth frame, you're right. Deep concentration by Smith. Rather unorthodox delivery. But boy, is he accurate. That's the one thing that he has going for him, Tom. Smith is extremely accurate. He's, you know, we talked earlier about Jim Johnson Jr. and his great bowling exploits locally, and of course now a PBA champion. He's probably the most accurate bowler that I've seen ever in this area to come out of this area. Tom Smith isn't that far behind.
No, he's not. And the other thing, you can say what you want. You know, Tom does have a little bit of a crooked elbow in his backswing. Is maybe a little unorthodox on the approach, but he does it the same every single time. And when you
Muscle
do that,
memory.
It just comes back.
Yeah, muscle memory. So both have opened with strikes. Both have covered spares. Rob's was a little bit more difficult. Tom had to pick up the 5-pin and did so. 835 is his high series. He has a number of 300 games. He's won one of the marathon events down at Country Club Lanes, a very highly competitive events that they hold down at Country Club near Baltimore. He's a U.S. Open qualifier from Delaware, and he does this for about the same reason that Rob Pierson does it. He likes to make a little extra money bowling, and he's good enough to do it.
Yeah, this year Tom won the Delaware State All Events Championship, which is a paid entry into the ABC Masters, which will be held in Reno in 1998. And some expense money, and on top of that, he won $250 for the event. So,
you guys going to send a lasso along?
What, just to make sure he comes back?
No, just to make sure that he maintains himself out there.
No.
Tom with the short picket fence on the left side, covers it well. 1, 2, 4. Let that last shot get away from him just a little bit. 40 years of age. Here is Rob Pierson. Tom has a few years on Rob, a few years experience in bowling as well, because Tom's been bowling about 30 years. He got started at an early age of 12. Rob Pierson didn't get started until he was 17, and he's now 29. 7-pin will not fall.
See, I'm not that old.
And I know that, no, you're not. Makes me younger, too. It really
right.
does.
That's right.
As I begin to look at some of these ages, I'm getting younger every day.
Well, it turns out Tom's a statesman of today's tournament.
Pierson has the 7-pin to pick up. Title match. He has defeated 3 so far and goes by the 7-pin and cannot believe it. Went to sleep, just went to sleep, lost concentration in that.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised when I watched him shooting the 4-pins earlier. He was using a lot of the lane, letting the ball hook. This time he looked for that action and just didn't get it.
You know, the contemporary players, Ward, will do that. They'll still try to use that big hook even for the corner pins, and sometimes it comes back to bite them, as it just did with Rob Pierson.
Well, part of it, too, is the contemporary players can throw so many strikes. They get those big scores and don't have to shoot spares.
Oh, my. And now he is beside himself as he has left the difficult 4, 7, 8. And is not happy with himself. And as we told you, these 2 competitors, Rob Pierson, Tom Smith, they will let you know when they are not satisfied. And Rob right now, you can tell, is not a happy camper. He'll go for it. Doesn't get it to swing over far enough. Really needed to hit it on the left side of the 4-pin and just barely kiss it over, but goes for naught. He will open in the 4th, count 57 through 4. Tom Smith with a spare working in the 3rd has a 37 count through the 2nd frame.
I really think Rob may have been going for a safe shot, too. I don't think he wanted to take a chance of just getting one on that one.
True. May come back. That pin may be important later on in this match. Tom Smith into the pocket.
But here comes the killer. When Tom gets a break, he will take advantage of it.
Yes, he will. State team game series record holder. 1997 state tournament scratch all events, as you alluded to a moment ago. Won the city tournament all events in 1995. A lot of good bowling for a long period of time.
Yeah. Tom's got a lot of great scores behind him, and he's got a lot left in him, I think.
Just doesn't go away. Into the pocket. And he gets them all to go. His only drawback every once in a while with his game is that he will leave consistent 10 pins, and he'll get a little lazy on them once in a while, not follow up. We'll be back with more of our championship game match. Rob Pierson, Tom Smith. It's still airtight. In just a moment, we'll return.
A la Jimmy Johnson.
Tommy talking to himself a little bit, however, but he really got wrapped. Two 9 pins that should have gone down.
Yeah, you're
Absolutely should have gone down. Paul Manuel says, I had one too. Don't forget that. Tom will throw his fill ball. Our final count is going to be very respectable. Paul Manuel finishing out with a 216. Tom Smith is going to finish out with a 209. Back at Price Lanes at Price Corner, Wilmington, Len Holmquist in company with Ward Novak. Rob Pierson will have a little work to do now. He went flat with a split in the 4th frame as a 57 count through 4. And his opponent, Tom Smith, the number 1 seed, has just doubled up. And now Rob is all over the place, and he just cannot believe what has happened to his game. But he has gone, if he's watching like we are from behind, Ward, he's either gone too quick or too soft, too strong. His game is just getting away from him, and that bridesmaid's dress is beginning to fit again as a second-place finisher in this tournament.
Yeah, it's real unfortunate because he's bowled great up to this point.
Yes, he has.
Now he's just putting himself in a real deep hole.
Needs to make this spare, and does. And will now move over and try to gather things back together on lane number 3. There is still plenty of time, and anything can happen. But he cannot afford, at this juncture of the game, midway, to give Tom Smith any more room whatsoever.
It's really tough, too, because I've been in similar situations where you think all you got to do is relax and make good shots, and the harder you try to relax, the tenser you get, the more pressure you put on yourself. But he got a real good wall break there, and he parried that strike.
It's a little bit of a wall shot, and the 5-7 go down last. Tom Smith. 835 high series. Started off match play today with scores of 238, 256, 234. Followed that with a 255. And after having a bad game, he came back with 279 and said bye-bye to the field as the number 1 seed. Muscle memory is working well, and he too has the 5-7 fall last and has strung himself now a 3-bagger.
The other thing about Tom, too, is I've seen him bowl in all kinds of different conditions, and it seems like the tougher the conditions are for the field, the better he comes out.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. He can string a lot of strikes. He can post some high scores, and he can do it under very, very, what the bowlers term, grind-out conditions.
That's true, and Tom's been there. He's a competitor from a very long time ago. When he was in high school, he was an all-state football player.
Right. Played for Bob Tattersall at Wilmington Friends when they had a great high school team, and he is now on fire, and this championship match is his, no doubt about it. Maybe one of the finer performances for Tom, and I know that he's been wanting to win this title for a number of years. When you have his credentials, you have his resume, but you don't have this title, there's something left undone, and now he is trying to right that undone today. Rob Pierson can't get all 10 to go down,
and I don't think that's to take anything away from Rob.
No, not at all.
29 years old, he's got plenty of time to come back. I think you'll see him do this probably within the next 3 or 4 years.
Well, you know, I've been watching Tom Smith bowl for a lot of years, and as firebrand as he still is, he's a lot calmer than he used to be. It just goes with age, I guess.
Yeah, he's matured a lot. I think we all have. I can remember times when I was afraid, honestly, that Tom was going to pull his hair out.
Well, as I sit here behind him and he's sitting on the bench in front of me, he did pull a little bit out in the back, but not as much as I have. Rob Pierson, solid strike when it really is not going to count too much, but He at least wants to go out with a respectable score, as Tom Smith has strung 4 and is on his way to the top 20 title. And he knows it. And he's talking to himself, telling him, just stay focused, stay calm, fella. This isn't yours. It's in the bag. You could post a nice big score. Be a history maker. Remember, this is the first time our championship match play has been shown on television. He's not happy that he didn't get them all down. The 10-pin remains standing. But he does know that he is far in advance of his opponent, Rob Pierson.
Yeah, he's about 47 pins up, I guess, at this point. 46 pins.
And as they say in the game of bowling, they're running out of paper. Or running out of computer, I guess, now.
Yeah, there's no paper left.
No. That super information highway is even running into the bowling game. Tom covers the 10-pin here in the 8th frame. And he'll count now through 7 frames. 166 with a spare in the 8th.
Yeah.
Rob Pierson
strikes out.
117 with a strike in the 8th. It's basically,
If Rob strikes out from here, he'll have 207.
that won't be enough.
And Tom's going at a 220 clip.
But Rob Pierson's got to be happy with his performance. Started out as the number 5 seed, and really just to get into the finals had to come with a rush in match play. He started out 10th in match play earlier today, and 205, 254, 194, 236, 229, 217. Had a low game of 168, lost that, of course, but then came on at the end, 222, 202, 226. Not gigantic numbers, but enough numbers to get into a position to go for the title. It's going to come up a little bit short for him again, but he was there and did go through the field until he met Tom Smith here.
And he made the biggest move of the day. When you come from 10th to 2nd,
yes,
that's an awesome move.
In this type of competition, the caliber of competition that we have here in Delaware, as this top 20 tournament has been renewed by Gary Trumbore and company. We're just finishing it out. Rob now with a double.
Whatever he lost in the middle of the game, he just found again.
Well, that'll happen sometimes when it's over.
That's true. You relax. And as I mentioned, when you're trying really hard, you're trying to stay relaxed, and the more relaxed you try to stay, the worse it gets.
You know, Rob was certainly looking at the 3rd time being the charm, but it's not going to be. This will be his 3rd straight 2nd place finish in the top 20 tournament. 2nd is just not good enough sometimes, but you got to feel proud the way that he performed, especially after having a rough 2nd night of qualifying, going into match play number 10, and then coming up through match play to make it to the finals.
Well, even though it's disappointing, I'm sure, for Rob, when you consider the fact that he's made he's placed 2nd in the top 20 tournament. This will be his 3rd time in 12 years of bowling. That's quite an accomplishment.
Tom Smith will be our winner. Tom is the daddy of 2, Amy and Tanya. Did his youth bowling at Holiday Lanes up in Claymont. Got started because of his mom and dad. He, too, like all of the other finalists in this field, has been influenced by that legendary Fred Grau. Not to be confused with Fred Borden.
No, Fred
Certainly
Grau.
not to be confused with Fred Borden. Let's stick with Tom Smith and see how he finishes out as Rob Pierson posts a 184.
Tom's prime state team is named, look at us now, Fred Grau, and he's done him proud again.
He will have to knock out the 10-pin, but he's got the title in hand.
And I think he's had a career month when you consider he's won the All Events title and has a Masters spot in the next year's ABC Masters in Reno, and now he has this under his belt. It's a career month.
And you know, the funny thing about it is that he's at 40 years of age, and you know it's not even enough. He wants more.
That's true.
That's the good thing about Tom. He wants more. He will battle you tooth and nail all the way. 214 is his score with one more ball to go. He could finish out with a 224. In the last game, Rob Pierson posted a 223 to 186 victory. But Tom has got the elusive Delaware top 20 tournament title. He has sought it for a long time, and it is now finally his. With the final shot, they all go down, and that's your champion, Tom Smith. has defeated Rob Pierson for the title 224 to 184. Congratulations to Tom Smith. And congratulations are in order to Tom Smith, being presented the 1997 Delaware Men's Top 20 Title Award plaque by Ward Novak, Secretary of the Wilmington Bowling Association. And we've enjoyed ourselves, Ward. It's been a lot of fun.
Well, thanks, Len, and I've had a good time doing this with you.
History making as it is, this is the first time the Top 20 Title Countdown has been televised, and we hope you've enjoyed it. For Ward Novak, this is Len Holmquist saying good night, everyone.
How and when did you become interested in bowling?
I started bowling at the age of 4. My mom managed a bowling center when I was growing up, so I took up bowling. After school, I was there all day and all night, and had nothing to do besides play video games and bowl, so that's how I started bowling, Mike.
What advice did you give to a younger bowler?
Well, I would first tell them to practice, 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 and you notice in the major tournaments that spares make or break you when you're talking about money. So I tell them practice spares. Striking will come, but practice spares in different types of lane conditions.
How and when did you get interested in bowling?
Well, actually, I started bowling when I was 10, and how it happened is my sister Susie took me when she was babysitting me one night, and I just got hooked from the very first time I started bowling, and I joined a league and made new friends, and I've been doing it now for 25 years, so I guess you could say I kind of got hooked the first time around, and that's how I got started.
What advice would you give to a younger bowler?
Now, the first thing I think I would do is join a league, and I would find out how much I enjoyed bowling. If I really did, then I would get some instruction from an instructor, from hopefully a USA certified bowling instructor, bronze, silver, or silver, and I would just do it for fun and enjoy it. And then later on, if I decided to get more serious and wanted to have a career in it, I would go to college and bowl collegiate, and then I would try the pro tour if that's what I wanted to do.